Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back for another recap and a review of the new series, The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, where Zero and I today are going to be getting into episode 4, where this episode is titled What We. It's a ridiculous title name, but as you should know by now, every episode is sort of drawing out an extended sentence. So a couple of little word drops there, here and there. But yeah, because let me see. The first episode was years. Episode 2 was gone. Episode 3 was by. Episode 4 was what we. So years gone by, what we something. I can't. If this is Jeopardy, I'm done. Or is it Jeopardy? It is Jeopardy. Yeah, I'm done. Wheel of Fortune, not Jeopardy. Wheel of Fortune. I'm done. I still wouldn't have got it. But with that being said, I think we need to draw the attention to the credits here, because the writer of this episode is no other than Danai. So I thought was super interesting, because we knew they were going to be a part of that. We knew like the overall story was from Danai and Andrew and Scott. But kind of getting into each of the specific episodes here, I was definitely interested to see what episode she was just going to either direct or write. And this is the first one where she's helming the writer credit alone. Which is interesting, because this is also what I feel is easily her strongest episode. Man,
Mhm.
man, oh man, oh man. So really quickly on my review, I've really been enjoying this series, but I think to that notion I just made, that this becomes my favorite episode thus far, because it's just pure acting. It's pure acting, and Danai is fantastic. Of course, we've seen her across the board in so many different things. And Andrew, who we don't see acting too often, that's because, as we know, he stepped away from The Walking Dead so he can spend time with his family. But it was good to see him really arise to the occasion alongside of Danai, who I think is a juggernaut on anybody's cast. And they had some really, really good moments. So I think, for all the things you love about The Walking Dead, whether you're just a big fan of the lore, the comments, the games, whatever it may be, or just the series, and you just enjoy these characters so much, and by that fan faithfulness of folks, you can see no wrong in them. I think this was really a moment to really put both of their foots down and say, like, sure, you love the characters, sure, you love the series, but we really can act. Like, and we're going to carry this episode, just the two of us. And they without a doubt did. And I really love that. Just going back to the fundamentals, especially even coming out of the pandemic era, where there was limited sets, so you had limited cast members, you didn't have too much going on. It kind of went back to that, and that's where we did start to see a lot of other folks really show up and say, like, by the way, I know what y'all may think about some of my roles I may have taken in the past, but I really cannot. Nicolas Cage comes easily to mind, something like that. So I think this was definitely a nod towards the fans and a nod towards Hollywood, in terms of saying, hey, this is not all we're known for. We really can act. Cut the check. Also, that writer credit by me as well too. Denied, put out there.
Word.
But for you, what was your thoughts about this episode?
This was a really strong one. Besides the fact that this was just so performance heavy, and not so much of a timeline heavy. Like we didn't get very far in this episode. You know, we started in the same place that we ended it in, but at the same time, so much was accomplished, because those of you who have been watching Najir and I's weekly recaps and reviews for this series, we keep having questions. And I have been on the fence for a very long time now whether or not I trust Rick, because something's off. I've said it probably at least 3 times every video that we've shot. But I think this is the closure. This is the closure that it was Michonne and what she had to say, how powerful her performance was, with, I want to say, maybe like 2 or 3 days that they're in, hunkered down in this apartment building. That was finally what got to him. And she's really the only one who can see you're not the person that I knew. You're not the person that I have dedicated my entire survival to, who I've dedicated building a family in this terrible time, this superpower duo. She's the one who really knows.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else in the series, except for maybe like, the OGs, who most of them are not around anymore, but really can identify what is and isn't within Rick's like real nature.
Yeah.
And of course the viewers, right? The viewers can see it too, because I know I'm not the only one who's sitting on their couch right now. Like, this man is fishy. I don't trust him, but I really
Yeah.
want to, because I know what he is actually capable of. And this was the first time where I'm like, dang, okay, now the truth is coming out. It had to be her. It couldn't have been anyone else that could make him wake up like that. I'm not saying that it's like, the easiest thing to do. Like, as we saw earlier in the series, he had been conditioned. He had been groomed. He had been conditioned. He had been put into a box. And really, the only thing that you can do is conform and just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, at a certain point, give up. So don't blame him for it, but I also don't trust him in that state. And now, finally, I think from this episode, we have 2 more episodes after this one, correct? I think we could
Yep.
we can get down to the business. Like, the whole series previous to this episode has been giving us little teasers of little moments that feel like, oh, we're back in the good old days, like Rick and Michonne together again. It's just like day one. It's really not going to be that way in reality. But after this turning point where she's actually getting to him, and she's like, look me we not in the eyes. This building's coming down. We're going nowhere. We need to talk about this because you're different. And you need to stop playing around thinking that I don't know that you're different.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to continue. But I love
Yeah.
this episode. It was powerful.
Yeah, I mean, and even going back to like how the structure of the season has been so far, we had, 2 single episodes about each one of them respectively. Then you got an episode really about CR and CRM and just the nature of everything that's happening within the world and sort of just their ties to it. And now this is the episode that is strictly about them. So I do love how the episode was, as you said, very performative heavy, very character driven. But as we known, just as the fans, we had a lot of questions from looking from the outside in. You sure as hell got to imagine that the characters have questions, the difficult conversations needed, and thus I like how we didn't sway away from it. They didn't give us a 10 to 15 minutes portion of an episode. That says, nah, you all are getting that whole hour of everything that needs to be talked about, ironed out, addressed between these 2 powerful characters, which if you go back again to the structure of this season where they say it's like, well, you're good. Rick, you're good in these elements. Michonne, you're good in these elements. The whole nature of this series seems to be how good they are together. So while we do see glimpses of it, and I think this episode is super metaphorically heavy as well too, it wasn't until the end till they got into the same page where you really started to say like, yeah, wow, they really are something. They're really a dynamic duo. Now that they're on the same page, we now got 2 episodes to kind of reflect back to episode 3, understanding what's all at stake with the CR and CRM. What can the 2 of them now on the same page be able to accomplish is now the big going forward. So I don't even know how to prepare for the next 2 episodes now, but I'm super excited for it. And I will say one other thing too, like with this episode really about Rick and Michonne trying to find the love they had and really getting to the point of reconciliation, excuse me. The whole thing about Carl, man, I did not see that coming. That kind of choked me up a little bit because Carl's one of those fan favorite characters who I think we all can say gone too soon, and really understanding that even with Carl being gone for years now and him being away from his daughter and Judith and now having RJ here, that fact that Carl still truly holds a special part in his heart, and Carl has been the survival mechanism for him alongside of Michonne. So it just lets you know, like, Rick is a complicated character, but he has a lot of heart. And everything that Zero's been questioning and the fans have been questioning, I think this episode really ironed out a lot. And I think now, collectively, as the Walking Dead family, us, the viewers, us here at Big O Bell Media, everybody across the world, I think we all should be on the same page now in terms of saying we understood the conflict that the two of them had. I think it's safe to say they're on the same page. We're looking to see how they dominate together. And ultimately, I said a whole bunch of BS because in my notes, I said, you know, there's nothing more productive than a little bit of sex and killing walkers. That'll just
I'm
fix
dead.
everything.
Okay. I love that you said this because I had the same thought when I'm watching this episode. All right, it's a thing. We see it in rom-coms all the time, right? Couple, they have a big fight. The makeup sex afterwards is amazing because you know what? You just put all your feelings on the line, whatever it may be. We're in a world. We are in a world where we could just remove that. And actually, I mean, there was a nice, like, very intimate scene, which was like, okay, we back. But Rick and Michonne finally work their differences out. They have that little intimate scene. Then it's the first time where the two of them are in the hallway. There was a previous hallway scene when they're butting heads. They haven't come to a mutual decision on what they're going to do yet. And it just messed up their whole flow. It messed up their whole flow. He's, bickering at her. You're supposed to hold the corner. She's like, I know. Don't tell me what to do. I've been here before. It's giving our marriage is falling apart. They have this heart to heart. They really get in each other's brains. Michonne takes Rick and shakes him down by the shoulders and said, look, this is what it is. They have that vulnerability moment. And then they go back into the hallway. And the hallway scene, when now it's like, okay, we're back. We're just where we started, just like old times. That was the makeup sex for me. It felt like, because they were enjoying it. I got this one, you got it. It's seamless. It's like they're dancing almost. So in my head, I'm like, if this were if this were a rom-com, which I mean, it's not a com, but it definitely is the rom part. That's the makeup sex. It's coded.
Yeah,
I've seen it because it feels good.
Yeah, in this apocalyptic world, I think, I entirely agree that the two of them side by side, co-oping the hallway fight scene against some walkers, and now they're in rhythm. Absolutely. I mean, that right there, all the flirtiness, even into the point of being in the car, was just the formality of their love. But that reconciliation was them back to back on that wall in that hallway getting it in. That's why I said there's so many symbolic moments and messages within. I love how I combine words like flawlessly, and it slips out of my eyes. I said mimics, like memories and moments. With messages and moments within this that I think a lot of folks are going to pick up on. So definitely get in the comments, let us know some of the things that you picked up on, and whether you think you're right or wrong, or whether you just reaching, whatever it may be. I want to hear it all because I think there's a lot to really pick up on. And that really does bring me back to a comment from last week because Tam 1824 said Rick is back where he was when Negan broke him, and Michonne is trying to bring him back to the old Rick. I love that statement because
love that
you have to attest to everything that him and Negan went through. Completely agree. 1,000% agree. We know that Negan had his own little road of trials and tribulations, and him and Maggie they're trying to reconcile, and that's a very important dynamic amongst our characters. But I mean, entirely right, because at this point now, Rick has not had this moment to have anybody to pull him from out of this, and there's only one person that could do that, and that's Michonne. I even think if Michonne wasn't here, and let's just say somehow we had like a Rick and Daryl moment, Daryl, who's basically his brother, still couldn't have been the one. It's that special type of person, and it typically is a woman. And if I could go a little bit further here with that, it's typically a black woman that's going to come in and that's going to like whip it up right and nice, lay it on the table for you and say, here's your meal. You better eat it, my guy. Cause like, this is the only way you're going to get back to that strong, powerful nature that I know you to be. And I love how there's so many scenes where they just reset and she says, no, we're talking about this now. And she goes about it so many different ways. And actually, let's just get right into it because First of all, let's talk about the rumor in here and the AI
Oh.
with the temperature control apartment. I'm like, what the hell? Like, wait, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, hold on. I thought they were in an apocalyptic time. I ain't
Word.
never. I got a rumor back there, but the thing, the AI in terms of temperature control, I ain't never
Mhm.
seen that before. That kind of threw me off guard. I was like,
I
wait a
thought
minute
that was
now.
really funny. I thought that was really funny because they get in the room, the AI, the temperature thing is telling them, we're gonna reach the desired temperature soon. And then I start thinking, like, okay, we're probably gonna close this whole conflict now, because like literally in the room, but also figuratively in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
script, the temperature is rising. The temperature is rising, and as soon as it reached the desired temperature, is when we start getting stuff done with this the conflict that they have between them. And I
Yeah.
thought that was funny. It was a gag. It was cute. I liked it.
A 1,000% agree. And it's funny because with them jumping out of a helicopter and like, I don't know, all of us has watched Fear the Walking Dead. Jumping out of the helicopter doesn't prove to be a good fate for you two, for
Mhm.
anyone. So for them, it's kind of like, all right, they're done, but obviously we know it's their show. How could they be done? But it is again another level of symbolic. It's like they really are outside of the norm. They are
Mhm.
above the norm. And this is a situation of saying, like, we done seen other characters jump out of a helicopter and die. They jump out of a helicopter and insert themselves into a therapy session within this luxury apartment, which
Right?
I got to tell you, let me tell you how far I went with reaching here. I said, oh, this is funny. This looks like a setup from Homegirl on the Showtime couples therapy thing. I said this nice, this nice little room that they got. She gonna walk in here with her dog, and they're gonna be having to sit on the couch and talk about what they're going through. But like,
I'm dead.
make it make like listen very intentionally that they made sure that this place was definitely something that looked like it could be a therapy session room. So like
Mhm.
they
Safe
they were
space.
so intentional about everything in this, completely completely interesting. But yeah, um so with that being said, they get in there and they are already bumping heads. Rick is ready to go back, but at the same time too, there is a measure of him feeling that there's no escape. He feels
Mhm.
captive. It's like we have to go back. Um, and even with him asking her, like, I can't believe you did that. He responds back and said, I can't believe you said that. Like the fact that there's such on opposite ends of the world here, or even planets at this point with their arguments. Like she threw him out the helicopter for the sake of what he said.
I feel like that sometimes too, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's some women out there that's definitely stabbed their partners for the sake of love. That's no here nor there. But yeah, they get this upscale roomie, and here's where I, as a guy, am just jaw dropping, just laughing because I think we've all have witnessed as guys. I think we've all has witnessed our guy friends get put in situations with their partners, and all we can do is just watch and kind of laugh under our breath. And for me, Rick, this, and I know you probably enjoyed this too because you've been on the fence about Rick's intentions and whatnot. When Michonne started to undress, my man was sweating
Oh
like the
yeah.
Jordan Peele meme because
You just
yeah, because he's trying to hold a straight face, like we got to go back. We're done. They're gonna come for us. But at the same time, he is seeing her body and the scars, and like my man that lost his breath. He like, oh
Mhm.
fuck, he don't know what to do.
Literally.
What did you think seeing his reaction as we seen that goddess started to undress and scars and all? And I think that's also interesting because really quick before you answered, like the scars and all really does show you, just to me, as I said, there's a lot of messages in this. From the time y'all been apart, she's been through hell and back, and she still
Mhm.
is um just stunning, just beautiful. So it's that sort of that story of scars and all I've been through, I'm still here and still as beautiful as ever. And I think even mentally, you have to say, like, I haven't seen you in so long and the scar clearly depicts that you've been through something, but even through
Mhm.
that, you still take my breath away. What a moment here without words
Mhm.
being said. How did you and you, in your perspective, how did you sort of articulate that scene?
Well, in a way, I kind of wish that it was communicated earlier once they found each other, what exactly Michonne had been through, um, while he was, MIA, while he was captured, while she was looking for him. Um, because I also understand that on the other side, Rick is being heavily groomed, he's being heavily conditioned. He said it himself. He's just trying to figure out how to die and still be alive so he doesn't have to endure the the things that are being pushed on him, which he seemingly doesn't have another option. So I don't imagine that Rick would really be thinking too hard about what exactly Michonne would be going through, let alone what she's going through on her way to come and get him. You know what I mean? Like, so much went down in Alexandria. So much went down after. Well, then she had a baby. She got pregnant. She had a baby without him there. She left again after another crisis happened in Alexandria. She left again, met new friends, met new supporters, and then had to kind of deal with the Walking Dead cycle all over again, which is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And again, because Rick was conditioned so hard, I don't imagine that he's really thinking about in detail what exactly she could have been through for two reasons. One, because he's got his own fish to fry and he's dealing with how he's going to make himself die or not, and what do I do? But also, um, the love of your life is outside these walls. So I'm sure he doesn't want to think about exactly what she might be going through. But at the same time, I feel like it would have made this conflict a lot easier in the end if he had known exactly what she had gone through to get there. Because at that point, she would get there. It's crazy for you to turn her away. I brought my ass after a pregnancy, which is like, hey, ain't no anesthesia, like nothing. We don't got all that. Had a baby, had to defend our home, left our home, left my kids for over a year. I had another year taken from me recovering from mustard gas. Like, how dare you tell me to go home after I went through all this? But again, granted, one, he doesn't know. Two, we never really had that time in the beginning of the series to communicate that. And then, when they're having this intimate scene, he sees the scars. She starts to tell him a little bit more about what exactly has been happening since they've been separated. You have a son. I met an old girlfriend who's crazy. I met these new people. They helped me. I spent a year of my life trying to get my strength back after these people, folded me, basically. But then all that information is starting to come out in this moment. And hey, that's emotional. And you could definitely see it. I don't know if I interpreted that exact moment as Rick just like losing his breath. I kind of felt like he was just crying. Like he was on the verge of like, a big breakdown. And
Yeah.
granted it turned into an intimate moment, but um yeah, that's a lot of information at once. And I do think that that was the ultimate turning point for him to be like, and then the conversation about Carl. I did like that Carl was thrown in there because he's a very important legacy character and definitely laid the ground for a lot of familial attachments in the series, which, in real life, humans don't forget about that, even though, you may have lost a loved one 6 seasons ago. I don't know, but that hole is never really filled. And so I do like that they brought that up, added a little bit even more humanity into their interpersonal relationships with the people that they love, and how they can drive you to cope in extreme ways, to do extreme things in order to fix it, whatever is important, on top of the apocalypse going on. But this stuff is really, really heavy, man. And Danai Gurira's writing because a lot of this is real heavy monologue. And you know what? That's what, besides this episode, that's what The Walking Dead does really, really well, is they will give you
Mm-hmm.
a hefty monologue that you just kind of sit in a trance, and you just have no choice but to just consume the flavor and the passion and the energy and all that stuff like that. But then also the performances as well. Like that specific scene that we're talking about right now, after he sees the scars and then they go and have the intimate moment, a lot was said with no dialogue. So we're getting both.
And I mean, like, I think the fans, we dig deep for things. I think to a lot of the other things that you said is like, as a guy, I could tell you, like, if you care about somebody and you're not aware of their whereabouts, you know they still exist. I mean, just the nature of not being able to protect that person and the almost the ignorance because you aren't aware what has happened to them. When you see a scar, you're like, well, that scar wasn't there when I was gone. I think it hurts you a little bit because you like, I was
Mhm.
unable to protect her. And then the other thing you talk about, yeah, she said that she had a kid. Let's not forget that his wife and Lori died while having a kid, having Judith
Mhm.
here. So you just think that, like, these are things that you're like, the one notion, you're like, you're thankful that she's okay, but you also like, I also wasn't there for that.
Mhm.
It's a twofold thing. Like, yeah, I wasn't there for my son's birth. But I also wasn't there for her and what she had to go through with that. So, it's definitely a lot that you can make in all these scenes. I'm gonna start going through some other stuff as well too. So anyway, he lost his PRB, so his little communication device, which is obviously not good because they're going to be looking for that. But I thought it was funny, especially with the intentional writing here, talking about like how she was reflected about the different jobs that she thought she would be before all of this, and creative writer was something that piqued her interest. She said, "You're a little bit of a creative writer too," with that
I love
note he
it.
left on the boat. Poetry, which I thought that was so funny.
Mhm.
But this is the first time where she mentioned children, and I said yes. Big is there in my notes. Children. Will he pick up on it? And he instantly did. And she said, listen, his name is Rick. We call him RJ. She was pregnant when the bridge happened. He's almost 8. I think the only thing that has not been addressed just yet as to why she decided to withhold this information until this point, but he had it because this was all about the difficult conversation. But Rick, who is absolutely groomed, asks her for the PRB, and she says, after everything that I just said, this is what you say. Like, did you hear me here? And he's just clearly broken. But this is one of the strongest moments in the scene. They're definitely they're acting here. They're absolutely acting. But he mentioned about her with breaking the kill record and how that's bringing attention to her, and she says, I don't like who you are and who you are with them. Here's another little symbolic thing I picked up on: the weather in the background. When she says, I do not like you and who you are with them, the thunder struck. And I was like, oh, and everybody in the crowd right now clapping or snapping because we seeing her, they're going 12 rounds in this boxing ring, and this is the first
Oh, yeah.
knockdown. This is the
Mhm.
ref came in and wants to know, is everything okay? Like, but with that being said, what they make you like, what, like, she's asking all of the questions because she's like, this is not you. And what are we just gonna let them win? And he responds back, they won a long time ago. And then the question about, did she bring you? It said she brought you,
Mhm.
excuse me, she brought you, asking about Jada's, knowing her involvement. And Rick with the response, I just want you to live, and says she knows we're unstoppable together. The thunder strikes again. Just in case anybody's taking notes, they're like, hey, please, anytime the thunder strikes, this is when you need to really pay attention to some of these key points here. But again, this is the two of them putting it all together. But it
Mhm.
says, we Michonne's, as the Michonne we know, we putting together a plan. We need to find her evidence. We need to destroy it, kill her, then we go home. do you think we can do anything? What did they do to you? Do you still love me? And he hasn't
Mhm.
answered anything but that by saying always. But anyway, their helicopter is on the way. And excuse me, while they were looking at the helicopter, they was like, that's our helicopter. And he nods to Michonne saving their life and says, she says, I mean, because this is her just thinking always proactively, we can go home, Rick. He says, no, I'm not going home. Listen, smack that man.
That's
It's
what I'm
okay.
saying. You threw him out of a helicopter. He's still talking crazy.
Yeah, because at this point now, listen, I'm never going to be pro abuse, but like there has to be some particular requirements that
It's
makes you
time to
eligible.
put your hand on your husband
You
because
got to.
he's in a trance. He's literally been groomed. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what else to tell you.
implausible deniability, because you could say that's not my husband. I wasn't aware that that's my husband. I throw some stranger in my face, because that's the sure as hell how he's acting right now. But as she mentioned, they would think we're gone, and the temperature control thing is still acting like a jerk because it's not being able to read things, but it's because things are getting a little hot in there. But anyways, she comes back the next part of the conversation. And it is interesting that the commercial breaks come at the time that they do, because it's kind of like we do need a pause here because there's a lot happening to viewers. We need like 2 minutes and 30 seconds to really
I gotta
make do.
digest.
Got to change her pace, because she comes back and says, listen, your son calls you the brave man and tells the story about what you did and calls himself little brave man. I mean, it doesn't get much more motivating than that. Just to give it to you real quick, what did you think about her sort of tactic now in terms of like introducing RJ into the story and what RJ should mean to him?
I mean, that's the way that it's gonna get done. And again, I know that I said earlier just now that I wish that a lot of this information would have come out sooner between them, just for transparency. I wouldn't include the RJ point in there just because earlier, again, I didn't trust him. I know now that I was correct in my assumption because Michonne also thought the same, that this wasn't a good piece of information to be sharing right now. But now she has him locked in a room, and she's like, "This is how I get to him." So now the knowledge is going to come out. I think it was an appropriate time. I do kind of feel like it slipped out though. I think she was just talking and then realized, okay, well, there it is. But again, better now than earlier in the series for obvious reasons. And if I kind of also thought that it could also be like a last straw, because if Michonne is standing there in front of him telling him that he has a son, that he thinks of you so highly, he is healthy, he's almost 8 years old, he shares your name, he knows about you, he's proud of you, even though y'all have never met, it's just the DNA. If he could find any way to, keep on his hard-headed, opinion and how this is the best course of action that we need to take, I think that honestly, I think that would be the last straw for her.
Yeah. But anyway, Michonne like, listen, this is not what I had in my head at all. We got a way out. Rick needs to ensure everyone is protected. Any and everything is protected. Even to the point of you talking about Okafor's mission, and he gave himself he gave himself to that. And I think, like, again, much like you've been saying, he's so mission driven about the world and reality with being with CRM. He's forgetting about his life and everything he had before that. And he says, like, I'm the only one left. And this is where, I mean, Michonne, maybe a little bit like me here, says, you trying to keep us safe by maybe changing CRM one day. I do get the idea that, like, you're thinking the long game, and I'm sure Michonne's like, okay, that's not a bad plan, but we also know that Michonne flicking the lighter earlier was definitely very symbolic about her wreaking destruction for all the CRM. So I'm sure she's like, good, I'm glad that you're thinking about bringing this down, but hold on, right now we have a golden opportunity here. But anyway, I'm sure you like called Danai. I was like, hey, can you throw this line in here really quickly for me? Because her call saying you're lying.
Mm,
Oh man, but it's a listen. Okay, cool. Your wish is granted. I'm out. Back to my kids. I found
mhm,
you. I fought for you. Cool. I did everything. They'll know that. And with that being said, is you lying, and when you see it, it'll be all too late. Michonne is hurt
mm,
at this point,
mhm,
and this is again this is I think she's probably just making her way around to second base in terms of what she delivered in this episode performance because she gave us that strong, very righteous stance. Now we're
mhm,
seeing her shifting into like a really hurt but potentially broken woman because she laid it down like I did everything to get here, and you're just kind of like, no, like
mhm. How
that's
dare
wild.
you?
That's wild. So she steps out in the hallway and she looks back, and this was beautifully shot here because her going
Mhm,
down this hallway was her essentially leaving the situation alone and even looking back because she has faith in her heart that he would follow. She looks back and Rick is at the door hesitating, slowly but surely breaking down, and he doesn't initially. Um, and I'm just like, wow, he really did just leave her. But eventually he does leave to go after her. But I don't know. What is your articulation of this? Like, she clears the hallway. So she looks back. He doesn't come. She clears the hallway. And by the time she clears the hallway, um, he then does go after her. So it's obviously late. Also, really tight how she's able to like put together MacGyver a weapon out
yep.
of no place. Like,
Mhm,
really quickly before you answer that too, he leaves after her. We do see a helicopter's coming,
mhm.
and to me, it's time to fight. But I got to tell you, on my 2024 bingo card, I did not know we were going to get Michonne Myers in the building because when she picked up that knife, I was like, oh hell yeah. They pissed me off though, but I was just like, oh man, you know what I'm really thinking though? I'm like, cause I'm diving deep into the conspiracies here. I thought they was gonna give her the knife and she was truly gonna go straight up Michael Myers out there. I thought she was just gonna make some like brutal deaths. And I mean like
Mm,
to the point of saying, like, yo, what are we watching? Really taking like the horror to the next level
mhm.
to the point that she ends up leaving it. So I'm just wondering, just for you, you're the horror queen. Did you think that they were going to possibly tap into any of those tropes? And then ultimately, so there's three questions here for you.
Okay.
Her leaving him in the hallway, her getting the knife, your reaction to that, and then her dropping the knife. And to me, the most disappointing moment of the entire episode.
Okay, so my reaction to her leaving, Rick is taking way too long in the apartment. Way too long. I don't know what the hell. Honestly, like as a person who I think I would want to survive, I would want my loved ones to survive. As a woman, what the hell are you thinking about in that apartment right now? While you just let her leave. I didn't like that. Um, sure, I could also maybe give the excuse that he knows very, very well that she can handle herself outside in the world, but also like it's bigger than just walkers right now. So again, what are you in the apartment thinking about for so long? She's gonna be fine, but Rick, I don't like that. I don't like that very much, Rick. Don't do that again. The knife, once she makes it out of the hall, I didn't think about it, but I would love to see just some like real close hand to hand combat from Michonne onto some walkers because we've seen it in the past, like these montage scenes of really quick like walker deaths are a
Mhm.
good way to express anger or feeling or like sadness or something. We've seen
Yep.
it all across the franchise. So um, the fact that he let her go and stayed in the room, granted, even though he did come later, but for way longer than he should have.
Mhm.
And there was a time when Michonne first left the room, leaving Rick behind, when she paused to be vulnerable for a second. because she knew that, you know, as soon as I make it a little bit further down the hall, I'm going to have to turn it on. It's go time. It's a massacre. You know what I mean? So she
Yeah.
stopped in front of the door for a little bit, allow herself to be vulnerable, because that's the point where she realized, okay, he's not coming. He's
Yeah.
not going to come and follow me. I just wasted years of my life, so much effort, the lives of people that I could have, you know, potentially helped along the way, and this man just left me. So that being said, I think that would be a great place for one of those moments. Is she just picking up the knife and it's real close and like intimate, like pain, you know?
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
don't mess with you do not mess with well, I was gonna say a strong black woman, but she was kind of on a different level. She's almost like superhero status at this point. So
Yeah.
even further reason to not, you know, to be messed with. I would have liked to see that. Now that you say, I wasn't thinking of it. Honestly, I wasn't.
Come on
If
now.
anything, I
Listen,
would.
the way how she withdrew it from the base, I was like,
It
uh,
scream. It scream.
I was like, okay, okay. I mean, sign me up
Mm.
for it. I think as much as this has been like a romantic series here, not the overall universe, but this portion of the universe, this series, I was looking a little bit for the extra brutality here. I mean, they really stepped up the production. So I'm like, listen, I
They
want
sure
to
did.
see Michonne say, I'm pissed off and I'm about to go 1v1,000 all of these walkers with this Michael Myers knife and show you what I
Hmm.
can do. And I honestly thought that she was going to get there. Rip was going to run behind her and she's going to be covered in blood with walkers all around her with just the knife. I
Hmm.
mean, she's obviously she's amazing with the katana. She had a staff, but the knife is like very up close
Different.
and intimate.
Hmm.
And anybody who's, you know, into true crime and murder mysteries, you know that they always say whenever it's a particular type of homicide or whatnot, that they look at it, they can evaluate the death to understand what may be that
Hmm.
killer's or whatever serial killer's motivation. It's like if you get choked somebody, strangulation, that's personal.
Yeah.
Stabbing somebody 1,000 times,
Personal.
that's personal, you know. And I thought they were
Hmm.
kind of gonna go that route to see her really like let loose because her husband, her man, just carried her. And did she looked back for that last minute moment of like validation. He was kind of nowhere to be there. It took extremely long. I mean, it's bad. I wanted to say this earlier real quick, and shout out to Akira Toriyama, rest in peace, the goat. I do think on an anime level that Rick and Michonne are showing like, and obviously not as deep as this, but it shows you like how Boma is to Vegeta in the sense of like Vegeta always gets brainwashed by somebody. If it's not Majin Buu, if it's not Baby, somebody is possessing this guy. And we obviously know his whole motivation is trying to be as strong as Goku or whatnot. But when it comes down to his wife, she's the person that always snaps him back, gets him out of all that BS. And I think now we're starting to see Rick going down this, you know, similar trope of like, if it's not the governor, or if it's not Negan, if it's not CRM, somebody is out here hypnotizing this guy, grooming this guy for whatever the good is in it, whatever little bit of good that he sees in it, and he's just completely devoted. And it's a weird thing. But now it's Michonne that comes in and says, come on, bro.
Hmm.
Mm-mm. 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 But anyway, with that being said, the helicopter comes in, destroys the other helicopter because they don't leave anything behind. No evidence, they never resisted, and so on. And also, we see the knife dropped, and biggest disappointment of that
Damn.
episode.
There goes
But
that.
we also see like a tactic between the two of them, like this offensive versus defensive thing. How they go about their approach with the
Hmm.
walkers, and they're not on the same page just yet, but we see how they have different styles, and that's been the same thing this entire series so far, seeing that they do have different styles, and
Hmm.
and yet it works. When it works great together. Um,
Hmm.
the building is crumbling around them. I think, as you mentioned, metaphoric, because yeah, there's some structural integrity issues there, but also I think it's because time is ticking, my guy. We got
Hmm.
things to talk about, and the world is crumbling around us, by the way.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, I think as they get deeper into the lab here, get deeper into this building, they get into the CRM testing and scientist lab. And to me, I thought from World Beyond, I said this kind of reminds me of Leo's place. This apartment also kind of looked like an apartment that Leo would have had a place in. So, you know, it's thinking like, huh. And then we see this other scientist in the letter, basically someone who's trying to make change, and Michonne is throwing shade even right here. Says LOL. To me, I'm like, LOL. I'm burning my notes, LOL. But I'm laughing, saying like, huh, when someone tries to save the world their way and it goes to shit. And like, I agree, because like that has happened. That's kind of been a norm with a lot of our villains. If it's not the governor, if it's not Negan, even beyond that, is Rick, are you saying you're trying to save the world? And obviously it's not working in the way you think it is. But anyways, he says, I'm not the brave man. You shouldn't have came. I mean, he's getting on my nerve now. But more argument, but yet they're getting them feelings out. And I love, again, them being MacGyver, seeing the equipment there, the gym equipment, and making them as weapons. And Michonne is still ready to smack this man. And like, what's going on? Again, still the building is falling apart. As they continue to fight. They get to this hallway and the chandelier falls. And I will be honest and say I thought she was going to be hurt.
Word. I was like, her leg is broken.
Yeah. I know. Y'all gotta let me know in the comments. Do y'all have questions about this scene? Because I for sure thought she was going to be hurt in some capacity, and this was going to be just like any other time in The Walking Dead. If somebody jumping off of something or hit by something, somebody gets hurt, and it becomes a complete liability to everything around her. And I thought that, like, 1,000%, this is a wrap for her with this chandelier that they couldn't move, but it fell on her. I don't know. I will also say too that, like, with this being in the dark, and obviously, you know, I'm guessing they're trying to make this be sort of. I guess this is supposed to be. We were supposed to be on the assumption that this is damn near pitch dark blackout here, and a little bit of light because, you know, the walkers are coming down the hallway and whatnot. I wasn't a big fan of how this was shot. I wasn't a big fan of anything with this chandelier, to be honest, too. But I super hate it. And I mean, I hate this across the board. I hate Heroes Complex. So this whole idea of, like, you gotta go and making this all up close and personal, and you gotta go, and he's saying it's never happening, which I'm like, yeah, duh, because Michonne, you're contradicting yourself. You're telling him you gotta go, but when he told you you gotta go on that boat, what did you do?
the exact opposite. Thank you.
So I'm just like, but I mean, like, whatever. I just hated this scene, to be honest. But she's like super lucky that she wasn't hurt. I definitely thought her leg was hurt, and you know, that would have been at least a reason for her to not be able to walk. But yeah, I don't know. You never with her, like, you never ever gotta thank me. Rick saying to her, you never gotta thank me ever, but whatever. They're just flirting, I guess. They get hot and steamy for other things to come. But anyway, now they're back to where they begun, as you mentioned earlier, and now they make out. And I instantly said, and you gotta tell me if you ever thought this at one bit. I said, oh, kid number 3 is loading up.
Oh my God.
Because listen, ain't no way in 8 years I ain't getting in there and I ain't shooting up the club.
Okay, so, but you know what? The first thing I think about, they get into the bed. I'm like, okay, this is happening immediately. So when you pour the Bisquick, okay, are you trying to make pancakes? Girl, do you even know if you're ovulating or not? What?
They wild. But I mean,
they are so wild.
All things at hand here. No questions, no logic, no we'll deal with it the next day type of thing. I am very curious to see what they do here. I think they need to just let it be, and it's just a moment. But man, I can't take no more drama on that scale. We already got RJ and Judith out there. I just can't. I just can't.
And if it happens again, it will be required for the fans. I need a flashback, and I need Abraham. That was his name, right?
Yeah.
Abraham.
Which one?
Yeah.
Ginger or which one?
Yeah, Ginger guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a flashback in that moment, and I'm gonna need him to say the same damn thing that he asked to Glenn. So when you pour the Bisquick, are you fucking idiot? Are you trying to make pancakes?
Oh man.
We need to
Anyway,
remember this. We
now
need
that
to
they're laying
remember
out,
this.
oh, 1,000%. Oh, no one's gonna forget this at all. But now that they done got it in, and now they're having their little cute moment, they're talking about this RJ's attributes: light skin, light brown hair, light brown skin, and this, hard to tell I had anything to do with him, which I thought was completely hilarious because I thought the same thing before. I was like, I wonder if that's okay. Never mind. It's clearly Michonne's, but you know how The Walking Dead was with like Judith and Shane and all that. So I was like, could this be Michonne's baby for real? But clearly, because she had the baby. But I'm like, damn, like, a man get no chocolate in him, whatever. And Michonne talking about the room with there and said she used to have one for the world went to shit, and Rick didn't know what it was, but still claimed Rick is lying to herself, and asked about the mark on the back. As you talked about Jocelyn and the whole thing about being 7 months pregnant, and she stole the kids and Judith and all that other stuff. And she took care of it and talked about his arm and talked about him trying to get away, still trying to get away. And this is where the real hard parts of the questions, because even after the sex, they're getting right back to it. Says, listen, you can't go home, you can't go back. You know, you're stuck in the middle. So it's time for them to talk all about it. What are we doing? You know, and talking about the attack, talk about everything that happened at the mall a year ago. Judith not answering the walkie-talkie no more. And says like they've taken everything from us. You know, you're hurting me, which I was a really big part of this episode. Is her acknowledging that, Rick, you're hurting me, and says, Rick, what's really going on? What did they take from you? And this is where we get to the Carl conversation. Carl's being in the dreams, and Carl in his dreams the one that helped keep him alive. And then one day he was gone, and then she dreamed about him, and that's where we started to see those other scenes about when he was dreaming about her, and how many times they fell in love, and how it kept him going. And without her, he would die. And he knows, he said, now I know how to be dead and live, which is that right there, my guy. Bring it. What is her name real quick? I need to look up her name real quick, because
That was really tough. That was a
yeah.
mic drop moment, that's for sure. And that, you know what? That's what I needed to hear. That's what I need to hear, because now it makes sense why I don't want to say he was willing to be conditioned so hard, but it added to that.
There we go, Dr. Orna. I was like, well, I know her name. Yeah, Dr. Orna, we need you right now, because Rick is hitting some true lows here, but it's what's need to be said. It needs to be addressed here. But he said, I won't survive without you or losing you again. She gives him the phone with Carl, and the Carl memories, the flashbacks and everything. That shit was hit me in the feels, like I was saying earlier. And this is again Michonne, even with how much Carl, the family, and everything with her, this is where she stands on it, man. She said, what would Carl say if he was here? And we go home and we protect it together. Like, you know, she's ironing out the plan. Says she might she might, if we finally got through, she might have, this at this point, I think this is at the point where she just might have finally got through to him, which says like, when Carl say he was here, we go home, we protect it all together. But now they leave together, they leave out of the place together, and they're calling out kills, they're working together. And this is truly one of the best scenes here. The choreography.
That was the makeup sex. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the actual makeup sex. The choreography in the hallway as they're taking down walkers together, like, you know, like the good old days. That's the stuff right there.
Yep. And they get kissing every time every chance they get. The PRB is destroyed. But you know, this is when they get outside to the car. I thought this was funny because Rick can't drive a stick shift. They make out again with the switching of the seats. But what I thought was funny, for any gearheads out there, this was a stick shift electric car. Do they make them? But
no idea.
But that's the thing, because they probably don't. But the thing is, because really quick at the end of the episode, the entire building fall. But the thing is, because you just realize you came from a research lab, that's because somebody of some high intelligence, a scientist there, they made this car.
Mm-hmm.
They made a car, and I think it was a Toyota something, but they don't make
The
those in electric.
Nissan, I think.
Was it a Nissan?
I think
Whatever
it
it
was a
was, I can't remember. But like, they don't make those in electric. Maybe now they
right.
do. But the other thing is they definitely don't make them in stick shift. So somebody was making a energy and
Mm-hmm.
complete fuel efficient car by making it electric. I think it's hybrid because they had the gasoline in it, the back as well
Yep.
too. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody was thinking way above and beyond, and that's where it just kind of tells you the sort of just the brain power that the CR and CRM
Yeah.
have. So
But hold on. I am also thinking at the end of the episode, great episode. That was fantastic. I'm also thinking this is a little bit okay, the hybrid car outside, literally my guy parked right outside of his lab, which tells me that when they take it, somebody might notice that it's missing.
that's
I don't
true.
know.
Good point. That's
Maybe
a
I'm
good
just
point.
paranoid, but we already know. We already know the tenacity that the CRM has. They want to keep Rick. And at this
Yeah.
point, they want to keep Michonne. Excuse me. At this point, they want to keep Rick and they want to keep Michonne too. So and we've been knew this. So they will be looking for them one way or another. They already know to go straight to Alexandria. With the car being moved on CRM grounds, I guess, they're going to know exactly where to look. So I can also start to speculate what we're going to see next Sunday with the next episode. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here, but that car just like is right there and it's got gas and this will take us all the way home. I'm suspicious.
Ooh, 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 ooh. I'll leave it at that. I ain't gonna add anything else to it. I like that. A great way to end today's conversation. And while we're done talking, you all now can enter the chat by getting in the comments below, letting us know your thoughts about tonight's episode. Things we missed, things you liked, some of the other really symbolic messages, metaphorical messages, and moments within this episode. Get us all of that in the comments below. But yes, folks, 2 more to go. We'll be back for episode 5 next week. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for this one. We'll see y'all back very soon.